Have you ever seriously wondered what a total transformation of your reality would feel like? I'm not talking about just changing a habit, but, fundamentally shifting the very lens you see the world through. Well, today we're digging into a really fascinating text that maps out that exact journey. And get this, the source material we're looking at lays out a path of exactly 40 gauntlets, or you could say levels of understanding that you have to pass through to completely transform your consciousness. It's a pretty radical framework for a seriously profound inner shift. Just let that sink in for a second. It's not one giant leap, but 40 distinct shifts in your perspective. What a cool idea, right? It challenges us to think that maybe, just maybe, our current reality is only one of many ways to experience life. It really sets the stage for what is a truly mind-bending journey. So we're about to dive into this 40-level path, and it's not just a collection of cool ideas. It's laid out as a step-by-step journey from one state of consciousness to a completely different one. The whole journey is framed between these two really poetic ideas. On one end, you've got what it calls human consciousness. That's our everyday kind of default state, right? Worried about survival, society, ourselves. And on the other end, Zen monastery grass consciousness, a state of deep connection, simplicity, and just being. So this right here, this is basically the roadmap for our whole discussion. Every single one of those 40 levels is shown as a direct contrast between these two states of mind. This side-by-side view is going to be our guide as we try to figure out what this transformation is all about. Okay, so our first stop on this journey is a complete overhaul of how we see reality itself. These first few levels, they challenge the very foundation of what we think is real, starting with the nature of the universe. So the first big split is between materialism and idealism. The human view, materialism, says that the physical world, atoms, energy, all that stuff, is the ultimate reality. But the Zen monastery grass view, idealism, suggests that actually consciousness is what's fundamental, and the material world kind of arises from that. And this shift in perspective just keeps going, especially when we talk about our origins. The framework puts the scientific view of evolution right next to the more spiritual concept of creation. The idea is that as your consciousness transforms, so does your whole understanding of where everything came from. Oh, this is a big one. Do you see life as just a series of random, accidental events? That's the typical human perspective. Or do you see it as this interconnected, meaningful pattern where everything, and I mean everything, has a purpose? That's the Zen monastery grass view. A world where absolutely nothing is left to chance. Before we go on, just take a second with that question. It really gets to the core of this whole first part of the shift. Your answer to that question deeply, deeply influences how you see every single moment of your life. Okay, now let's see how this new worldview changes how we see ourselves. All right, so we've kind of reshaped our view of the universe. Now the framework turns inward and asks us to completely redefine our concept of self, our identity, and what our purpose is. And this is where it all gets really personal. The human perspective tends to see life as finite, a brief flash from birth to death, and that's it. But the Zen monastery grass perspective sees this life as just one chapter in a totally infinite existence. Just imagine for a second how that shift alone would change how you deal with your daily problems. This one reframes our entire idea of how to act in the world. I mean, so much of our culture is built on this idea of hustling, right? Striving and struggling for what we want. This framework contrasts that with this idea of effortless action, spontaneity, acceptance, and just moving with the natural flow of life. And this question, man, it just nails that shift from striving to flowing. It asks us to reframe purpose itself, not as some destination you have to conquer, but as the quality of your presence in this very moment. It's a fundamental change in your whole reason for being. Okay, so we've talked about reality, we've talked about the self. Now let's bring this down to earth. How does this new consciousness actually show up in our everyday lives, in what we value, and how we actually act? This is a huge one. Are you living your life for other people's approval? For the likes, the promotions, the social status? Or is your primary compass your own inner peace and joy? This journey is all about shifting your sense of validation from the outside world to the inside. This slide really highlights a fundamental difference in what drives us. The human path is often about accumulation, getting more stuff, more status, more everything. The Zen monastery grass path, it's the complete opposite. It's a path of release, of letting go of attachments and the need to own things. The goal literally shifts from possession to freedom.
So you see, it's not just a random shopping list of 40 ideas. There's a real logic to it. First, you shift your entire worldview. That shift then allows you to redefine your sense of self. And once that happens, it naturally leads to a change in your actions. It's a complete, holistic transformation from the inside out.
Okay, as we get to the end of this whole framework, the source text leaves us with this really powerful metaphor that just captures the essence of this entire journey. It's not just an intellectual exercise, it's a total change of your very being. And this is the final line from the source material, and it's just beautiful. It suggests this transformation is so profound, you can't really explain it from the outside. You know, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, it's a deeply personal internal process. You alone know what it feels like. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this. Looking back at all these comparisons we talked about, striving versus flowing, possession versus release, coincidence versus some grand arrangement, which perspective feels most true to you, right here today? It's a fascinating question to sit with as you think about your own potential for metamorphosis.